So now we'll start workshop 4, where we'll hook the database to your Catholic app, so you'll end up storing all your user information, story information, and comment information in MongoDB. We good? Okay.
Wait, I have to screen share. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the live coding portion. So get ready for some workshopping. So in today's workshop, we're going to hook our backend server with our Mongo database. We're going to create models for comments and stories, and then we're going to modify our API endpoints to use the Mongoose models that we create. If you want sample code to follow along with, you can go to weblab.mit.edu/Mongo, and it should have a lot of helpful code snippets there to get you started. Okay, so first we're going to connect our app to MongoDB using Mongoose. So you guys should have already gotten your connection string in homework 0, but if you need some help or like with getting it right now, feel free to hop on the queue and a staff can come help you. To start, we're going to get fetch, get reset dash hard, and get checkout W4 starter. Okay, cool. So if you guys, sorry, it's actually homework 2. But if you guys remember your SRV, which is this long fancy string that should start with MongoDB plus SRV. So you want to get that, and then you want to copy and paste it into server.js. So if you go to MongoDB, and you should have like a database for your project or whatever, you can click this connect new, and then you should get your connection string right here. Yeah, so I'll give you some time to find that. And then once you have that, you just want to go to server.js, and under, oops, if we go to, this const mongo connection URL, where it says process.env.mongo URL, you want to copy and paste your connection string into there and replace this. So I'm going to copy mine key, and let's paste that right here. Okay, raise your hand if you need more time with this step. Okay, cool. Everyone's good. Okay. Yeah, if you're having issues, make sure you delete the brackets with database_password and put your own password there. And if it's still not working for you, feel free to go to slide 54 and use the R connection string if yours is not set up yet. You just won't be able to see things that are posted in the database, but it should work for following along with the workshop. Okay, so now if you do npm install and npm start, you should see a message that says server running on port 3000 and connected to MongoDB. So I do npm install, npm start. Oh wait, I have another terminal running. Oops. Okay, there we go. So you should see this server running on port 3000 connected to MongoDB message. Hopefully everyone is able to see that. Okay, cool. So now on to the actual workshop. So first thing we're going to do is create comment and story Mongoose models. Feel free to check out W4 Starter if you haven't already. So if you remember the MongoDB hierarchy that Sophie was talking about earlier, we have our overarching catbook database, and within that database, we should have two collections, the stories collection and the comments collection. And within each collection in our database, then we have our individual documents, which are like the stories and the comments that people will be posting. Each of these documents should have fields like ID, content, etc. So in models.js, we want to, in the models directory, we want to open story.js. So you want to open the story.js file. And what we're going to do is we're going to try to enforce a structure to our stories that get posted. We want each story to have a creator name, content, and we want both of these fields to be type string. So if you remember from what Sophie just talked about, the way that we can accomplish this is by using schemas and mongoose models. So if you go to the weblab.is/mongo, you can see both of these, which are helpful snippets for creating schemas and models. Remember that schemas are to help us structure our MongoDB documents, and models are going to be constructors that we define from our schema to apply it to our collection. So let's start by importing Mongoose. So if you go to the to-do step 0, we want to just type this in. So const mongoose equals require mongoose. And this is just importing in our mongoose. Okay, so now let's write a model for our stories. So what we're going to do is we're going to define a new story schema for the database. Story schema equals new mongoose.schema. And then we want to add in the two fields that we talked about earlier. So creator name, which is type string, and also content, also type string. Okay, raise your hand if you need more time with this step. Okay, I'll give like a couple more seconds. Okay, cool. And then the last step is exporting our model, right? So we're gonna use module.exports. And then we're just gonna pass in our story model. So now you guys should be all set. You just wrote a mongoose model for the story and you exported it. So now we basically want to do the exact same thing for comments, right? Because remember we had our stories and our comments collection. So you want to repeat everything we just did for comments. So open up comment.js under models and you can see the steps are the exact same. So now try to follow the steps that we just did, importing mongoose, creating the schema for comments, and then also exporting it using module.exports. I'll give you guys like 2 minutes to try it out on your own. And feel free to join queue if you have any questions or need help. Yeah. As a hint, one of the differences with comment is just that we need a parent field. So this is like one additional field that you should add into your schema. I'll just write it. Okay, so I'm gonna be writing the solution now. So feel free, like, don't look at it if you don't want to see it. I was like, P? Command Shift plus.
I thought it was just Command plus. Is it Command plus? Oh, it's gonna work. Wait, I think maybe you can like. Wait.
That's Command Shift.
Really?
That's bigger. Yeah.
I'm gonna make it bigger though.
That's like really big. I think that's good.
That's good.
Okay, so the solution is on the screen now. If you want to take a look and make sure that yours matches up with it, everything looks good. It's also here on the slides. So just make sure that everything looks good. If you have any questions, feel free to hop on the questions doc or join the queue. Okay, so now we're going to be moving on to step 1. So here we're going to be linking the backend with our newly implemented MongoDB database. Feel free to git reset --hard, git checkout w4 step 1 to get caught up. And also in server.js, your connection string will probably have disappeared. So you're going to need to recopy and paste it probably into where we pasted it before. So here, like you're going to probably need to put it back. Okay, so you guys want to open up api.js from the server directory. And what we're going to do is we're going to access the Mongoose models that we just created. So within api.js, you want to go to the part where it says to do step 1, get all the stories from the database, and send response back to the client. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to try to import the story model. So here, oh, sorry, this is up here. Oops. Yeah, so I should already be there. But what we're going to do is we're going to import the comment model now. So you guys can follow the same format that was used to import the story model. And you just want to do the exact same thing with the comment model that you just wrote. So I'll give you guys like 1 second or like a couple seconds to do that. So like right here, just want to import the comment model. Okay, cool. Raise your hand if you need more time with that. I think it should be pretty chill. Yeah, so you guys just want to follow the exact same format that you use for story. Const comment equals require. And this is the require function allows us to use the models that we just exported in the previous step. Okay, so now for part 2, we are going to try to get all the stories via our router.get API endpoint. This endpoint will ask the server to return all of the stories that we currently have saved in the database. Now, how can we get all the stories that we have saved? Oh, wait, I don't want to show the solution. Try to find the relevant code in weblab.is/mongo by yourselves first and see if you can find what function we would use to return all of the stories in the database. You guys like 1 minute. one here. Okay, so hopefully you guys had enough time to try to find the relevant code yourself, but here's the solution for get stories. So basically what this does is we're using the .find function, and this is going to send a Mongoose query to find all of the documents in our database, and the .find function will return a promise. So we're going to use the .then to handle the asynchronous request. And if our query is successful and we are able to find documents in our database, what's going to happen is the stories array is now going to contain all of the matching documents that we just found in our database. And then we want to send the array of stories to our client, so we're going to do res.send stories. Okay, so now let's try implementing post slash story. So we're going to try creating a new story document and inputting it into our collection. So we're still in api.js, and now we're under the router.post endpoint. And what we're going to do is we're going to try to create a new story document and put it into the collection using our model. So where do we get the content for posting our story? Basically, we have this content parameter that we want to access. And in order to access that, we can go to new post input.jsx. So you can take a look at it under our components. I think it's in pages. So here you should be able to see, like, we have this const as story, and the const body has content with value. So this is the content we're going to try to be accessing in our API endpoint. So we can use the rec.body.content to get this content from our new post input.jsx. Let's do a quick recap of get versus post requests first though. So remember that get requests are what we use to request data from our server. And in our get requests, we should have our query parameters in the URL. And this data is also saved in the browser heading. But for post requests, this is sending data from the server back to the client. And you can see here, in the body, we have the data that we are sending. And this data does not persist and is not stored on the browser head. So for get requests, we want to use rec.query because this is going to contain the query parameters of our request. So for example, if we have this URL, sample.com, and we're querying for this, our rec.query would contain the information Sophie and the value yay. And then for post requests, we want to use rec.body, and this is going to send anything that's contained inside the request body. So if we send a post, if we want to send a post to sample.com with the body of Sophie yay, rec.body would contain this Sophie yay. So, yeah. Okay, so now that we've reviewed get and post requests, how would we implement the /story endpoint if we want to create a new story and post this? So try to find the relevant code in weblab.is/mongo once more, but we're gonna go over it. So basically, what we want to do is first we're going to create a new story object. And we're gonna have creator name. And you guys probably will need to create a variable like my name or something and put your own name there. And then for content, remember we just talked about how we're going to access the content for a post request is we're going to use rec.body.content. And the content is coming from the new post input.jsx file. And then now that we've created that, we want to save our stories. So let's do new story.save. Okay, does anyone need a minute to get caught up with that? Okay, give like a couple seconds. Okay, so now we have just successfully created a new story document and put it into our collection. Let's try test posting a story. So in one terminal, you want to run npm install and then npm start. And then in another terminal, you want to do npm run dev. And then we can check our local host. Oh. Oh, what happened? Oh. I wrote this wrong. Is it comments? Oh, there you go. Okay, so now you should be able to test post a story and see it on the feed page. Does anyone need more time with this? Okay, cool. Okay, so now for step 2, we're going to do the exact same thing we just did, except we're going to repeat it for comments. So we're just linking our comments backend with MongoDB. So if you want to get caught up, you can git checkout w4 step 2, and then make sure to recopy and paste your connection string if it disappeared in server.js. Okay, so remember that in the GET request, we included the parent story's ID prop when we made the GET request from the front end. And oh, yeah. Okay, hopefully everyone is caught up. But if you remember in our GET request, we included the parent story's ID prop. So we want to access this ID prop from the backend. And so you guys can try and think for yourselves for like a second about how we would do this. And as a hint, we're going to use the rec again. Okay, so this time we're going to be using rec.query.parent, right? Because we are trying to access the ID prop from the parent field. Okay, so now it's your turn. So try to implement the get endpoint in api.js. So if you go to step 2, you should see router.get/comment. And what you want to do is do the to-do step 2, where you want to input the parent parameter. Basically, we're trying to find the comments that match the parent parameter. So I'll give you guys some time to try that out for yourselves. Okay, raise your hand if you'd like a little more time to try this out. Okay, cool. Okay, so just to kind of like recap and clarify where we are at, what we just did is we hooked up our backend to MongoDB for the stories model, right? We modified our router.get and router.post endpoints for the story to find all of the stories in our database and then send an array of stories back to the front end. And then for post, we created a new story document, input it into our collection, and then we wanted to save that within our database. We're doing the exact same thing for comments now, except this time with comments, we want to only return the documents in our database that match the parent story. So we're not gonna have an empty query parameter like we did for stories. For story.find, it was just empty, right? For comments, we want to put something into our query parameter, so we're only returning the comments that match their parent story. So what we wanna do is, we're just gonna put parent, and we're gonna use rec.query.parent. Because if you remember, this is for GET requests, right? So now it's only going to find the comments in our database that match this rec.query.parent parameter. Give everyone a minute to copy that down. Okay, now it's your turn. So you're going to, oh wait, sorry. This is, yeah. But here's the solution also if you need it. Okay, so now we're going to try and do the exact same thing we did for comments that we did for stories, where we want to edit the router.post endpoint as well for comments. Basically, we're going to create a new comment document and put it into the collection just like we did before. So you can use the story, what we just wrote for story, as a reference for what we're going to try to do with comment. So remember that we're getting the content from new post input.jsx. And now we just want to save a new comment into our database, but we want it to contain the parent and the content from the request. So you're going to need to modify the story endpoint a little bit, or modify what we did in the story endpoint a little bit. But check out weblab.mit.edu/Mongo if you need help. And I'll be putting the solution on the screen, but feel free to not look at it and try it for yourself first. Okay, so hopefully guys were able to try creating a new comment document. So we just followed the exact same format that we did for the new story document, except this time we have an extra field, right? We have the parent field where we're going to do rec.body.parent, because remember this is a post request, we want to use rec.body, and we're accessing the information, which is the ID that was passed as a prop to the parent parameter. And the rest is the same. So you have content, rec.body.content. And so this is creating a new comment document, but now we want to insert that into our collection. So we're going to do new comment.save. And then .then, right? Because remember the save will also return a promise. And then res.send will send our comments array to our collection. Cool, so now we have just successfully created a new comment document and saved it to our comments collection. So here's the solution. Feel free to copy that down to make sure you're caught up. If you could put on your finger, oh, I think there's a question, yes? Oh, sorry, this is comment, that's my bad. Yeah, it should be comment. I'm sorry. Yes, it is comment. Good catch, thank you. Yeah, could people show on their fingers like how many more minutes they think they need? 2? Okay. 2 minutes. Oh, okay, cool. Then let's keep going. So now we're going to try test posting a comment. So you just want to do the same thing we did before, right? And go to your local host. And now you should be able to post a comment, and you should see the comment as well. So I'll give people some time to play around with it. Yeah, and just make sure that everything is working good. Okay, hopefully you guys got to try out test posting comments. But now we are basically done. So you just want to git reset -- hard, git checkout w4 complete for any of the code snippets that you might have missed. And what we can do is we can actually navigate to our MongoDB. And basically inside of your database that you created, you should be able to see the comments and the stories. So if we go to collections and then we look at the comments collection, notice these are all of the comments that I just test posted, right? So it has the content, it has the parent parameter with the type string, which represents the parent ID. And then if we go to the stories collection, we can see the story that I just posted. It has a creator name and it has content. So you guys should be able to navigate to your own MongoDB and go to the cluster for the database that you created and be able to see all these collections of stories and comments that you just test posted. So it's pretty cool, and this is a good way to like debug in your own application because you can make sure that the information is being sent to the database and being stored there accordingly. So if you don't see the documents populating the collection, that means that something is wrong with sending the information to your database. Okay, so just to recap what we accomplished today, we learned how to understand database structure, schemas, and models, and we were also able to hook our MongoDB instances to our app. We interacted with our database using our API endpoints, and then we were able to use those endpoints to also display the information from our database on our front end. That's it. Okay, so if you want more readings or documentations, feel free to check out these links on the slides for today's lecture. And fill out weblab.is/feedback to give me and Sophie feedback. We would very much appreciate. Yeah.
We'll take everyone. 1 to 2 minutes to do that. And then once you're done filling out the feedback form, feel free to come down to the stage because we're going to do a limbo challenge for a bio break today.